for joining us for another episode of All About PR. In today's session, we speak to Sonali Sokhal, founder of Intelliquo PR, on lifestyle PR. Sonali is based out of Delhi and has over 2 decades of experience in consumer and lifestyle PR. With her agency, she works with some of India's coolest and most successful lifestyle brands. Some of the names include Soultree, Nykaa, Monkey Bar, Typhoo, and Nida Mahmood. She is also the co-founder of PR POI and curates some awesome content on the learning platform dedicated to PR professionals. Check that out later. For now, let's speak to her. So hi Sonali, how are you doing?
Hi Taranjeet, I'm doing very well and thank you for having me on your podcast today.
It's lovely to have you back here. I've been listening to a lot of your sessions earlier as well. Very well put on a lot of the PR POI sessions.
Yes, they have been amazing and I think every session is a learning for me as well. You know, when I started off, I realized that the more you speak to people, the more you realize how little you yourself know, and we all end up working in silos and have our little bubbles. And then we realize that when we meet other people, that bubble gets burst. So I think it's really good to meet as many peers from your industry and understand how they work.
So true. So you know what? Before we start on, lifestyle PR, which is the subject of our podcast today, I want to understand a little bit more about you. How did you get into PR?
I think I got into PR by accident, like many other people who join PR. I was working with a magazine. I don't know if it's still there, but it was a very respected magazine called New Woman publication. It was published from Bombay. It had a very good innings for many years, actually. And I was handling all their work from Delhi. I used to their correspondent from Delhi. And I started interacting with a couple of boutique PR agencies for my work. And I found the work very interesting, very different, very challenging as opposed to, writing articles where I used to write the article and the job was done. But in PR, I realized that the job is never done. It's a new day every day. And that sort of started attracting me to it. And the people at one of the firms, they were looking for people. And I started working with them 3 to 4 days a week. And slowly I got sucked into it, as they say. And then there was no looking back.
Interesting. So you're from the other side.
Yeah, I started my career from the other side. I used to write and freelance for a lot of magazines. But I think at that time I was still very young. So I was not really, I would say, a hardcore journalist. I was just freelancing and I was writing, I was exploring my life. And luckily, in that course of exploration, I ended up in a PR firm, and that was it.
Awesome. No, we are all the better for having you here with us. Our industry, gained a very, very interesting and valuable ally. Tell me a little bit more about your entrepreneurial journey. While getting into an agency is interesting, and I think a lot of journals make that switch, but starting your own agency is a different ballgame altogether. How did you get into that?
I think it was a bit of I would not say a midlife crisis, but just a feeling that I wasn't doing enough with my life. And I had a job by then I had quit the boutique agency. I was with the national agency. And I think being that national agency made me realize that PR can't work like this. You can't work on billable hours. You can't have this huge team where accountability keeps getting passed around. It has to be more personalized and there has to be a more intense approach to the subject. And a lot of the PR I felt at that time in that agency, a lot of the way the work used to happen was more like a BPO or a KPO rather than a PR agency.
Right.
There used to be a separate team to make content. There used to be a separate team to do media. There used to be a separate team for client servicing. And it's not like that. PR is not like that. It's not something that you can break down into a factory process. And I was very disillusioned with it. And surprisingly, while I was doing business development for that firm, one of my old clients called me and they said, "We don't care what agency you're with, as long as we're working with you." I don't know. I just decided to ask them, would you take me on personally as your agency? And they said, "How does it matter? We were anyway coming to even this agency for you. So if you are taking us, as long as you are handling our work, it doesn't." And that was it, Tarun. I started, I remember, with one client, one laptop, and one person.
Awesome. So typically, I understand that's how a lot of the PR agencies have started up. It is the trust of an individual, a trust of a brand or a client that, motivates us to get started on that journey. So, what, according to you, are the strengths of a boutique agency?
I think boutique agencies come with their own networks, Tarun. I think we all have strengths, and what I have realized is that I have partnered with a lot of other boutique agencies similar to mine, including yours, and everybody brings their own strengths to the table. And I think the beauty is that a lot of the boutique agencies today have a great deal of support for each other because there's a lot of work in the market, but there is a desire for all of us to do good work, and we all support each other in times of problems. So I really don't think, I really think boutique agency, it's not about size. I don't think when I say boutique, it's ever about size. You could be a very fairly large size agency and you could still have a boutique approach. I think the approach is what distinguishes a boutique agency, and that approach is more personalized. There are people who are skilled enough for the job to understand the client, and they bring that in, deep dive into the brand that is required, because PR is a lot is being asked of PR today. If you don't have people with the right skill sets, you could have 10 of them, it wouldn't matter, but 3 people with the right skill sets are enough.
That's a very interesting perspective, Sonali, and I think it would be very appreciated by a lot of our listeners today when you put it in terms of the skill sets. It's actually the skill set that is required. I completely agree with that. So, when you started off and you looked at all the verticals that were present already, why did you choose to go with lifestyle PR?
I didn't really choose to go with lifestyle PR. I think it chose me because that was what I had specialized in for many years. And while we do lifestyle PR, we are also equally good at handling a corporate outreach for lifestyle brands. So I would say that today's lifestyle PR agencies, if they want to survive, and especially what COVID has taught us, is that bring that, see, a consumer interface is required for most brands, right? So that part is what the lifestyle is all about. Lifestyle is ultimately you're selling a way of looking at life. Today's lifestyle PR is no longer about fashion or food. It could also be a new tech brand that has a lifestyle focus. It could be intelligent apparel. So I think number one, you have to change the way you look at lifestyle PR if you want to survive in this current market. And two, you have to have the agility to offer a corporate outreach or at times even a B2B outreach to your lifestyle brand. So for instance, for an interior design brand, if we are looking at reaching out to a whole set of architects and creating way to reach them and have a PR outreach only for architects, for instance, that is also something we do, right? And it would be very B2B, but the firm itself is a lifestyle brand, right? And they are selling a lifestyle to people. So while we are reaching out to media, we are also, or consumer events, we are also looking at industry. So yeah, that's the way I look at lifestyle PR. It's no longer about one silo. It's B2B, it's corporate, it's B2C, it's everything. That's one of the most interesting definitions that I've heard of lifestyle PR. I think it's a very mature way of looking at it. Well, I think that maturity comes with age and time, Tarunji, and experience, because then you realize that, see, one thing that we all have to understand is that if clients make money, that's how we succeed, right?
Right.
And if you do not bring your X factor to your business, then they could be with you today and with XYZ firm tomorrow. What are you to the table, and how can you distinguish yourself as different? What's really required in today's market? Right. And if you don't evolve, you die. No, that's like a rule of every business.
So you've been in the business for quite some time now, right? So how have you seen the PR industry, specifically in the lifestyle segment, change over the last 10 years?
Okay, so I think the most important thing is that I have also evolve a lot, and therefore PR has evolved. I remember a time when the magazine editors would be just sitting in their beaten down offices, and we used to literally go with our envelopes, those yellow manila folders with the press kit and press release inside and pictures inside. And, it used to be very important to learn how to put a press kit together properly and make labels from Microsoft label. I don't think this generation even knows what we are talking about. you would, and wait for the courier guy and send out your couriers, etc. And then with the coming in of the lot of international titles, suddenly things got very professional. Magazines started having planned events, fashion weeks began to happen, things became very organized, and that was one of the most, I think, exciting times for PR, because suddenly, magazines were king. Everything, the fashion magazines, the food magazines, every event had to have the right set of editors, etc. All that was, those were those different days of PR.
When we first heard about fashion weeks, the entire look and feel of the lifestyle media industry, I think, changed at that point of time.
Absolutely. And it became about not just about how you present your client, but also how you yourself dress, how you network with the people in the industry. So everything changed, right? And the next evolution that has come in the last 2, 3, 4 years mostly is the digital one. I would say 5 years ago it's began to gain momentum, and now it's, thanks to COVID, it's really peaked. I think era of only magazine titles is over. We have seen the rise of the influencer. We have seen even PR change, because PR is, no longer about reaching out to media. PR has to have a much more encompassing role.
Right.
PR is actually today the custodian for brands, from reputation management to campaigns. So PR has evolved a lot if you look at it in that sense.
Correct.
Earlier, PR had a very, very, I would say, sidelined role. It was the ad agency guy who used to go and, wow the client and have the big ticket retailers. But today, I'm happy to see that PR is getting its place in the sun, because people are realizing that PR actually can tell your story in so much of a better way. So they get a creative firm on board to do the creatives, but the storytelling is PR. That's what I'm noticing.
Interesting. See, I do remember a time when we were called only at the activation stage, when everything else was,
Yes,
all the plans were done, all the creatives were done, and PR is called upon to just sell the product. But
yes.
time, I think we've now started getting involved at the innovation stage, which is a very welcome change. So let's come to this year. This year has been a game changer for a lot of brands in the lifestyle industry. I want to understand your take on it and how has lifestyle PR pivoted this year, because I believe this year has brought in a lot of changes in the PR industry, specifically in your vertical. So your take on that.
I think the changes were initially all for bad. They were not good changes, because lifestyle industry, I mean, when there was no life, how can there be lifestyle, right? So everything went into lockdown. People were worried about livelihood, health issues, etc. Nobody was
Correct.
interested in looking good or feeling great or their skin tone, But then things slowly start opening up, and lifestyle PR evolved. And I think the game has become much more digital now, what we are
Right.
witnessing. Everything is about getting the right eyeballs on a digital platform. Innovation, as you call it, is also happening on digital. I think the biggest example have been our couture weeks and our fashion weeks, where shows have gone on to Zoom. There have been Zoom launches for fashion brands. So yeah, we are learning to pivot very fast in terms of presentation and in terms of outreach. It's also been a bit sad, because lot of lifestyle magazines have actually shut down. So we are learning to look at new media with greater respect, more media which covers lifestyle. Digital is the future. I think for all media, all lifestyle brands, engagement will happen on that much more than it will ever happen in print. I don't think print will ever come back to its place in the sun anymore. It's all going to be digital, which was good. It's a good thing also. So these pivots have happened in terms of outreach, in terms of presentation, in terms of the storytelling aspect of it. I would say the thought process is still the same. The way lifestyle PR works, the way it reaches out to tell a creative story, I think that part has not changed, Tarunji.
Okay. So how has your agency pivoted to battle changes this year? Because I believe it has impacted a lot of the revenues, right? So how has your agency pivoted to handle it?
So, number one, like I said, we were never just only lifestyle, and I think that's what really saved us. Lifestyle is something that we bring very strongly to the table for a lot of brands, so they come to us. But
Right.
not just us, only our core skill strength. Number one. Number two, a lot of brands from FMCG to even fintech to, how should I say it, startup spaces still need a lifestyle angle to them.
Right.
Consumer faces all lifestyle, right? So any brand fits into your life is a lifestyle brand. That's the way I would look at it. And those brands still need PR. So we've been, I think, a little luckier than a lot of other agencies that we actually were not that interested in lifestyle as a lot of other agencies were. So we have survived that first set of rounds and things like that. Now I can see the market opening up and people are very anxious for business to begin. Also,
Correct.
Tarun, there's only thing that's left. See, advertising is not even an option in today's times. It's become prohibitive, or the storytelling is only digital. Number
Right.
one. Number two, events are not happening, right? So where do you take your revenues, or how do you market your brand? Actually, the only thing left is
Sonali, that's a bang on analysis of the opportunities that the PR industry has today. And I do feel that all of us should take advantage of this trend now to help consolidate our position in the brand life cycle.
not just, sorry, I'm just want to say one thing. I think when I started my company in 2012, there was a big recession in the market, right? I really, and that time I think I was very naive also, and I didn't even know that such a big recession out there. If I had thought second guessed myself, I wouldn't have started. So I think that's the same attitude PR agencies have to have today. Stop second guessing, stop worrying about the market, just do your work.
This year has been very challenging for lifestyle brands, especially since COVID has thrown a huge spanner in the works, making it difficult for most to function in a normal manner. Can you share an example of a successful case study under crisis management that you have handled this year?
Sorry, Tarun, we didn't have a crisis this year.
Oh, wow.
We didn't have any crisis. I think I'd just like to talk about how we worked with Select. So there was no crisis, but I think one thing I'm really happy about as my work is we work with Select City Walk, which is one of Delhi's most premium retail destinations.
Right.
And with them, we've had a wonderful partnership of time when the mall reopened. There was a lot of excitement in the media, and we were really able to capitalize on that excitement with brilliant stories on how we had prepared for the safety and the stringent measures that we had done for
Right.
opening. I'd like to say that it's a no-brainer. People were saying, oh, you have to go to an open market and it'll be safer, and how can you walk into a mall? But I think it's a no-brainer to understand that somebody with the resources and wherewithal like a Select City Walk will use no stone unturned to give you the best possible safety
Right.
experience. And that was really what we wanted to bring to the notice of all consumers, all customers, that we've actually invested so much time, effort, and resources to make this a very, very safe space, which really we bring the strength of knowledge, know how, processes of running such a big brand, right? And that we made sure came out in every interview, in every media interaction, every time, every media walkthrough that was done. We ensured it was done without arrogance, in total humility, and with the realization that the brand has put in a lot of effort for the regard for safety for people. And I touch wood, it worked well. It gave us we really garnered the right kind of stories.
Understood. I remember seeing those promotions on your Instagram pages. Very well done. Let me go back your entire experience in PR for that matter. What was the best crisis management advice that you ever received? And how much of it has been relevant this year for you?
Okay, I've never received too much advice, very frankly. I didn't have very good mentors. But
Okay.
something which I realized
Hmm.
through, I remember I was handling Shantanu and Nikhil, and there was a fire in their factory, and a worker died.
Okay.
Right now, the thing is, it happened. And I told them that don't deny it. It's not like you were negligent. Unskilled people, sometimes they make a mistake. So the worker, it was his own mistake, and he didn't follow the procedure properly, and it happened, right? So we actually, initially, they were very concerned about the whole episode, but we actually talked to them and we told them, because the media was hounding us, of course, and we told them, why don't you sit down and hear our side of the story, and
Right.
you can take a call on it. And when we just actually heard how they had done the safety measures, how it had actually happened, how even after his death they were looking after his family and making sure that his family was provided for life, etc. They realized that see, when you're in a work environment, an accident can happen, and then sometimes it can be very unfortunate that it can cost a life. But it's not always, unfortunately the blame will always fall on the owner of the brand or the factory. But we decided to be very transparent, very honest, and the beauty was that the media was so supportive on that honesty and that humility that they showed. I would say that's the best advice I would give any brand in a crisis is approach it with humility, approach it with honesty, and admit at times it's okay to agree and admit that you have been remiss. People want to hear acknowledgement of their hurt. If there is a crisis, people want to hear an acknowledgement of a hurt or a grievance. And once you acknowledge it, most people are in a much better frame of mind, or media or people are very receptive to you when you assure them you are bringing them change. So my advice to every brand is that approach these situations with honesty and with humility.
That's such a wonderful example, Sonali, of how one can handle a crisis with emotional sensitivity and empathy. I think more brands should follow this example.
Today, Tarun, sorry, one more thing is that in today's time, in the age of social media, now you can't keep a lid on anything. That's the reality, and we have to agree because your whistleblowers will come from your own internal stakeholders. I've seen it happen up ten times. The
Right.
brands want to tight-lip, but how can you control your own employees or your own stakeholders? With the era of smartphones, everything gets recorded, right? Screenshots are taken, taken. So at that, in these cases, saying that in this era you're going to keep a lid on things is, I'm sorry to say, very myopic. That's the way I look at things.
Completely agreed. So, what are the best practices that you would take from 2020 to 2021 and further? Because I believe this year has been a year of learning and unlearning and relearning again for all of the PR industry.
True, true. So I think the best practices that I feel is, compassion for yourself and for your team and for your clients. I think that's one of the best practices you can have because when you operate from a space of compassion, you work better. I'm not saying you have to be a softie, but you have to understand that people have gone through a lot and you have to work on a human level. We've dealt with people having COVID in our in our team. We've dealt with people being having to go back to their hometowns because they are too scared to stay alone in a big city in a time like
Right.
this, in a pandemic. I've had female staff whom I've actually requested to go home to their parents because for a young girl to live alone in a big city in a lockdown is not very safe, at least not in a city like Delhi. And I think
Right.
is very, very important because your clients are going through challenges, your teams are going through challenges, your media people are going through challenges. So I think one of the practices I would always take forward is compassion. Work with compassion, work with an understanding of why somebody may be having a bad day or a meltdown. So that's one best practice that I intend to take with me. I think another thing is push the envelope. Take those risks. You live only once, and COVID has shown us that what's the worst that can happen? I mean, I remember sitting one day in office and I lost half my clients in one day or 2 days
Oh
because
God.
obviously, I mean, we had that time, right?
Yeah.
Where okay, we need to take a break. People we are not sure if we want to invest in PR right now,
Right.
and going through that, I realized, what? It's okay. Just go take that risk. Push yourself. Take the risk. Put in your best every day. Even if you have 2 clients or 20, it doesn't matter. Put in your best. Do your research and work really hard.
Awesome. Future plans for your company.
That's a good one, Taranjit. I think we are focusing a lot more on digital collaborations, digital campaigns. I think digital was something that I was ignoring for a very last long time personally, and COVID was a rude awakening for me to up my own digital skills and my office's digital skills. So yes, that's one thing, and we are also planning to become a little sector agnostic, and we are realizing that the skills that maybe lifestyle or a certain kind of PR can now be applied. Like I said, it's more about skills than it is about anything else. So we intend to apply those skills across different sectors. We may not enter very hardcore sectors, but
Yeah.
I I want every person in my company to not have fear of any one sector. I don't want them to get comfortable in one sector as well. I want them to explore their horizons and keep adding new layers to their work.
But isn't that, one of the best things about an agency life? You get to experiment with new verticals, new sectors, new clients almost every day.
You're right, but you will be shocked to see how many people want to come and join us only because we work with some cool beauty brands. And I find that very strange because all these young girls, they walk up to me and they have stars in their eyes and they're like, I only want to work on lifestyle brands. And I'm like, do you want career? And they have no idea. They don't even care. They want to work with the glamour, and there is no glamour. It's all hard work. So we always tell them that you get your one lifestyle brand or your two lifestyle brands, but you're going to have to work on many, many different things. And
Right.
they, of course, feel very bad about that. But I'm surprised still that even despite choosing to be in an agency, they end up being very rigid about the kind of work they actually want to do.
Interesting. That brings me to my last question for today. Your advice for youngsters who want to get into lifestyle PR today?
My advice would be, what is your lifestyle? You're selling a lifestyle. What is your lifestyle?
Right.
When I say lifestyle, I don't think you have to be spending a lot of money or you have to be, doing a lot of going out every day. But are you abreast with what are the trends? Do you even know what is the difference between, say, Pret and couture? Something as simple as that. If you don't, then you should not be in lifestyle PR. Because ultimately, you need to know lifestyle PR works on who are the people creating the trends. You should know them. Who are
Right.
the first adopters? Who are the people in every city? There is a whole set of people who is supposed to be the ones who lead the brigade. Do you even know of them? If you
Right.
don't know of them, do you even know what are the new trends in fashion or food? Or are you just going to use a press release and reach out?
Yeah.
Because that's the problem I'm facing with a lot of young people today is that they don't read. They don't update their knowledge. They are just there to say, oh, I want to do lifestyle PR and I follow 5 influencers on Instagram. That's not going to take you anywhere.
Understood. That's very relevant advice. Any parting shots for our listeners?
My parting shots for listeners who only join PR if you're really passionate about it. It's not a job, it's very all consuming. And if you're not going to put in your 100% into it, you're not going to get the results. It's not a
Right.
9 to 5 job. There are no holidays many times. And it is very time bound. If you have a practice going out, it has to go out. And please do your research. Don't wait. Make your own Excel sheets, make your own media plans, make your own media list. That's how you will actually get good at it. Don't depend on other people for these things.
Understood. And I guess you would also add reading to that list.
I would add reading and writing.
Yeah, writing is also a very essential skill.
Yeah, and I get a lot of young people, I don't know how to write. And I'm like, then why are you even in a job?
While I understand that everyone cannot be good at everything, it's perfectly understandable. But when you are in the communication industry, you need to at least have some modicum of command on the other aspects and maybe master one that will define you and possibly take you ahead in your career.
No, so I find more people very good with their spoken communication, with their written communication skills are really bad. And I'm sorry, but I blame our education system for this. Writing is an art. Professional writing is very different from creative writing. Every form of a press release is going to be very different from a brochure. And
Right.
you have to have that degree of understanding on these things because unfortunately, what I am noticing is that there is no art of writing. They don't know how to write.
Understood.
And the problem is that this is a big crisis that we are heading to. That's the way I look at it. And if we do not address this soon, and if we do not, you'll be shocked to see how many people want to come and join us only because we work with some cool beauty brands. And I find that very strange because all these young girls, they walk up to me and they have stars in their eyes and they're like, I only want to work on lifestyle brands. And I'm like, do you want career? And they have no idea. They don't even care. They want to work with the glamour, and there is no glamour. It's all hard work. So we always tell them that you get your one lifestyle brand or your two lifestyle brands, but you're going to have to work on many, many different things. And
Right.
they, of course, feel very bad about that. But I'm surprised still that even despite choosing to be in an agency, they end up being very rigid about the kind of work they actually want to do.
Interesting. That brings me to my last question for today. Your advice for youngsters who want to get into lifestyle PR today?
My advice would be, what is your lifestyle? You're selling a lifestyle. What is your lifestyle? When
Right.
I say lifestyle, I don't think you have to be spending a lot of money or you have to be, doing a lot of going out every day. But are you abreast with what are the trends? Do you even know what is the difference between, say, Pret and couture? Something as simple as that. If you don't, then you should not be in lifestyle PR. Because ultimately, you need to know lifestyle PR works on who are the people creating the trends. You should know them. Who are
Right.
the first adopters? Who are the people in every city? There is a whole set of people who is supposed to be the ones who lead the brigade. Do you even know of them? If you
Right.
don't know of them, do you even know what are the new trends in fashion or food? Or are you just going to use a press release and reach out?
Yeah.
Because that's the problem I'm facing with a lot of young people today is that they don't read. They don't upgrade their knowledge. They are just there to say, oh, I want to do lifestyle PR and I follow 5 influencers on Instagram. That's not going to take you anywhere.
Understood. That's very relevant advice. Any parting shots for our listeners?
My parting shots for listeners who only join PR if you're really passionate about it. It's not a job, it's very all consuming. And if you're not going to put in your 100% into it, you're not going to get the results. It's not a
Right.
9 to 5 job. There are no holidays many times. And it is very time bound. If you have a practice going out, it has to go out. And please do your research. Don't wait. I make your own Excel sheets, make your own media plans, make your own media list. That's how you will actually get good at it. Don't depend on other people for these things.
Understood. And I guess you would also add reading to that list.
I would add reading and writing.
Yeah, writing is also a very essential skill.
Yeah, and I get a lot of young people, I don't know how to write. And I'm like, then why are you even in a job?
While I understand that everyone cannot be good at everything, it's perfectly understandable. But when you are in the communication industry, you need to at least have some modicum of command on the other aspects and maybe master one that will define you and possibly take you ahead in your career.
No, so I find more people very good with their spoken communication, with their written communication skills are really bad. And I'm sorry, but I blame our education system for this. Writing is an art. Professional writing is very different from creative writing. Every form of a press release is going to be very different from a brochure. And
Right.
you have to have that degree of understanding on these things because unfortunately, what I am noticing is that there is no art of writing. They don't know how to write.
Understood.
And the problem is that this is a big crisis that we are heading to. That's the way I look at it. And if we do not address this soon and if we do not